In this video, I'm going to be looking at Fujinon's XF16-80, which of course was the kit zoom lens that came with the X-T4 I bought not too long ago. Now with this review, I'm only looking at elements that really relate to video quality or motion work. I really don't get into anything that's specific for still photography. You'll have to look at other reviews for that. But again, this is just going to cover motion work. Now the basic lens, this is, a basic, still zoom lens. As you can see, it telescopes when you're doing the zoom. And up front, up here, we have the focus ring. Now this focus ring, of course, it doesn't have any hard stops, but not only that, there are no distance indicators on the lens itself, and there's no change in resistance when you get to close focus and infinity. It just keeps on spinning with the same amount of resistance. The zoom, it does feel like a fully mechanical zoom, and of course it stops on telephoto and wide. Now the thing about the Fuji lens that I really like and didn't know about until recently is this, the iris ring. These lenses do have iris rings. If you want to go auto iris, simply go to A on the iris ring. Otherwise, you can set it to an f/22 all the way open to an f/4 on this particular lens. Other than that, it's a pretty basic lens, so let's get right to a couple of tests. Let's look at some of the bokeh characteristics, and that of course is the out of focus areas. Now wide open, our work lights in the back, they bloom to a very nice round out of focus object. As you can see over here, these nice round spheres. And as we stop down, let's go to a 5/6 now. We still have a nice round out of focus area. And then when we close down to an f/8, it still remains like a really nice round, nice round glow back here. It doesn't go into geometric shapes. It doesn't ovalize. It stays nice and round. So it's very nice characteristics. Now, while we're in the setup, let's take a quick look at lens breathing with our coconut friend here. And as I go back and forth, you can see that there's actually very little lens breathing on this lens. There's very little change in magnification in the image as we focus from near to far focus. This is really kind of surprising. Now to help us check lens breathing, we'll go to our checkerboard pattern here, and we'll go from near to far focus, or from far to near focus. And I'm really not seeing a lot of lens breathing at all. And lens breathing, of course, is the change in magnification that the lens gives us, and it's pretty darn good. Now at 35 millimeters, as you would expect, we're not seeing much, if any at all, distortion. Maybe the slightest bit of bowing out towards the camera, towards the bottom here, but really not much. Now, at 16 millimeters, the distortion is really minimal. There is definitely a bow. You can see on the top and bottom over here, it does bow out a little bit. But considering that this is a zoom, this is a low-cost zoom, the lines are surprisingly straight, both horizontal and vertical. Again, a very slight bow in the middle, but that's almost to be expected. Really outstanding. Again, this performance is simply not expected. Now, let's look at some flare characteristics. At 35 millimeters, I'm moving the light around a little bit. Not getting a lot. I mean, we have these little orbits, or these little round elements of a circle and outline that do pop up. But again, we're not seeing a lot of flare, characteristic flare from this lens at 35 millimeters. And here at 16 millimeters, okay, we're getting a little bit more of a traditional flare. Besides these, again, outlines of a part of the circle out here, we get a little bit of the orbs floating around, but really pretty minimal lens flare. So let's wrap up this review. Now, this was my first experience with a Fujinon still lens. I, of course, had experience with the broadcast lenses and the professional cinema lenses, and I have to admit, this was entirely unexpected for the quality of this lens at the price point. For a simple still zoom lens, to not have, or to have virtually no focus breathing was completely unexpected. On a functional standby, having the iris ring from Fuji, it's just a great thing for motion work. The big downside for me, of course, is the focus mechanism. The focus is right in front. It has no hard stops. It has no soft stops. There's actually no distance indicators on the lens itself. You do see that, or you can't see that on the LCD on the back of the camera. But otherwise, it's really not made for manual focusing. Now, the downside of that is my experience with the X-T4's autofocus is I have reservations about it. I would like to see a lot of improvements on Fujinon's autofocus. And realistically, that's how most people are going to use it. But for us, of course, we would like to see a lot of refinements with manual focusing. Now, Fujinon, is listening. If you could come up with a video version of this lens near the price point that you're selling this kit lens for, that would be a very, very interesting lens. Now, this lens is a very modern lens, meaning it controls flares very well. So it doesn't have what we would call a lot of character, maybe. And for that, you'll need to use, a different lens and possibly an older lens. But for everyday production, just day in, day out shots, this could cover a lot of territory with just some improvements in the focus mechanism. And that's what I have to say about this lens. At the price point, it's an excellent buy. It's a great, kit lens. It's a great all-around lens for the Fujinon X series. Well, that's about it, and we'll see you on the next one.